just going to take a second for this to pop up. It's really taking its time here. Okay. All right, so now we're live and recording.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:09, I think. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll start with Commissioner Nagel, or Counselor, excuse me.
Report to the town council, it's relevant to the senior center really indirectly. The budget season is coming to a close quickly, and the town manager's budget has come to us to make decisions as to what changes to make, whatever, and there are negotiations going on. Last night, there was a public hearing before the council meeting, so the public could speak to the budget as it is at the moment, which is the town manager is the acting town. And after that, in our regular meeting, there was on the agenda the possibility of making changes if anyone needed to or wished to. The majority party had stated in advance to the minority party that we were going to wait until the next meeting, which we can also make changes at, to make any changes. The other side decided to try to make a few changes, which didn't pass. So it's an ongoing process, and I believe the 18th of April is our next meeting, and decisions will be made in terms of choices and whatever, and the mill rate will be set, and that will be the final budget thing. There has been no discussion concerning any changes involving the senior center today, and I don't think there will be. That's my personal opinion. So that's what I have to report.
Thank you.
We don't have anybody else online
Okay.
besides our commissioner. We don't have any members of the public online.
All right.
Okay.
And then the approval of the meeting minutes from the last
March
meeting.
meeting?
Did anyone have anything they want changed or added, or did we get them?
Should have. I did them. They were very brief because we didn't have a commission. Oh, well, all right. Did anybody get them?
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Email.
We can table it until either we find it or I'll resend them.
Yeah, I mean, being out of the country, I didn't get a lot of things, so I didn't
Maybe
know.
it hit the spam filter on the way out. It's up to you what you want to do.
Can you, did you get them? No?
Okay.
Can you resend them?
Yes, I will resend them and then we could just let me just make a note so that you could do it for the next meeting.
I didn't think anything was weird because I didn't get a lot of things, so.
I would understand. Okay.
The next thing is the staff report.
So, I feel like I always have so much to say here, which is a good thing. But since we met last month, a lot has happened. We had a very, very busy March, a very successful March. We had a bunch of great. We had something. The previous month, there was the panel at the library regarding energy costs with our state representatives and state senator and other folks. We met somebody from AARP at that panel, and they said, we can offer a program to your members about electric choices and how to use how to go out and look at different possibilities for your electric choices and your options. So Barbara called up that contact, and they immediately scheduled something for March 13th. So we held a program called What I Need to Know About My Electric Choices on March 13th, which was again sponsored and presented by AARP and was very well received and very well attended. People were able to bring their electric bills to the session to kind of understand like how the different parts and components of the electric bill and where to go to get like reliable info about electricity suppliers. So that was great. We had the return of a balance and strength class, which our program coordinator, Barbara Womer, put together in response to the popularity of Silver Sneakers, which is an instructor-based exercise class that fills up every single time we have it. And people, complain about it. They get upset, rightfully so, but it is there was, limited availability. So Barbara, being an exercise physiologist, came up with a balance and strength class, which with an instructor, and we were able to accommodate people that way. So that's very popular. That also filled up, but we're going to continually run it so that everybody has a chance to do it. It's a 10-week program. We did.
Excuse me,
It's okay.
is it possible to get one of the students from like CCSU to come and volunteer and do a program?
For balance and strength, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep, we can do that. It's time to talk to them anyway about the spring session. So we did a lot of crafts are very popular at the center right now. We did a paint and sip. We did a couple of Easter card classes, all of which are very popular. We had the Yukon pharmacy students and the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists come to talk about polypharmacy, which is a whole big mouthful, but essentially it means how to manage taking multiple medications at once, whether they are prescription or over the counter or a mixture of both. There was information about Medicaid that we held that was also very well attended. We hosted the State of the Town address for the first time here, and that was very well attended as well. I should also mention, I meant to mention this at the beginning, but the town council did amend the Commission on Aging and Disabled ordinance. That amendment did pass. So once it goes into effect, there is a waiting period and a period of time in which we have to, in which the town clerk has to advertise the change. This will be now a 7-member commission. So it doesn't affect any of you on the commission, but our quorum number is now 4, which means we could, not this month probably, I believe it starts next month, we can meet with 4 people. So hopefully that'll help us move forward. Bus trips continue to be fantastic. We have pretty much eliminated the casinos. We tried it a few times, but since none of the casinos offer comps anymore, and that was a big selling point, people aren't interested in going. However, they're going everywhere else. We have at least one trip each month, sometimes 2, sometimes, Boston to a river cruise on Hudson River. The casino in Boston, I can't remember what it's called, Encore, very popular. They'll go there. Log cabin, there's shows within in-state and out of state, and most of them are all sold out. So or close to being sold out. So our volunteer trip committee is adding more. So we'll have more trips announced soon that we'll be offering. So that's something that came back stronger than it was from pre-pandemic, which is pretty neat. Our gift and coffee shops are both doing very well. I think that Commissioner Sobieski can attest that we are in need of volunteers for the coffee shop, as she often is taking the brunt of our business on her own, which is appreciated, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Tuesday happens to be our busiest day. And we had a long-term volunteer who unfortunately isn't able to attend now and help. So Kathy's been doing it on her own, and it's not easy. So we can certainly use, if anybody hears of a friend or somebody who's looking to volunteer at the senior center, please send them our way. We could definitely use some help.
What are those hours? I mean,
At the coffee
the
shop.
coffee shop on Tuesdays or whatever.
It's really 8:45 to 12:30.
Correct, yeah.
Basically.
We've had to have some days where we close because we just don't have the volunteers to do it. But the volunteers that are there do a wonderful job. Both the coffee shop and the gift shop are quite successful. We've been working a bit on gift shop sales because they were a little lower than we'd like. So we did some marketing, we switched up some of the inventory, and that worked out very well. Since reopening, because don't forget, they both reopened, halfway through the year, the coffee shop has made about $4,800 worth of sales since they reopened. Actually, almost a year ago now. And the gift shop opened in October, and they've done, $4,800 in sales, and the gift shop has done about $6,500 in sales. That's revenue for us for our programs. It's not earth-shattering, but it helps defray costs.
How much was the gift? I'm sorry.
65, 67.
Regarding, I know I tried to found and bring stuff to the gift shop, and you're required to go at a certain time and have an appointment.
Right. Yep.
And I wondered if they would consider, like, you can just drop off stuff. You don't care what they're going to charge for it. Like if you go and you give it away to savers, they might wind up with more stuff. Maybe they don't want it all, but at least.
They don't want it, Paul. I'm sorry. They don't want it part is the issue. We did do that pre-pandemic. We have one volunteer who does all of the, I don't know the word, like the intake of the items that are sold at the consignment. And she gets overwhelmed. People drop stuff off. They drop off garbage bags full of stuff, and 90% of it might be unsellable. which is why we ask for appointments. What we're considering doing to alleviate that, because not everybody's available on Tuesdays, and that's the day that she does her appointments, is we do require an appointment for your first visit because we want to go over how it works. We want to sign an agreement with you. We want her to understand, like, this is how we price things and, you know, all the details. But then after that, if you're a repeat consignor, we may allow you to drop off a limited number of items, like maybe 12, something reasonable so that she's not spending 12 hours sorting through everybody's, you know, garbage bags. And so we are looking into that as a way to get more consignments in, as long as people understand. If they're experienced with it, they don't necessarily need to meet with her.
What if there's, you know, if people put a price on them ahead of time, is that a bad thing?
They price it too high. So our average price point is $5 or less, and people, you know, as is human nature, things seem to think that their items are worth more than they are. So that's why the pricing is non-negotiable. It's done by our volunteer who is well versed. She'll research things, like if there's there's like a pair of earrings that are a certain brand, and they're not expensive, of course, like, you know, costume jewelry. She'll research it, see how much they're selling on eBay, how much they're selling like on Amazon, you know, so that we could price it appropriately. So that there's a lot of work that goes into it, which is why the appointments are the way they are, because we want to make sure that we're selling the appropriate stock at the appropriate price.
Plus
Yeah.
Rose, I mean, when stuff doesn't sell, she's got to undo that inventory
There's-
and give it back to the.
There's accounting
the
required.
person, you know,
Yes.
person
Yeah.
That says, this didn't really sell, so,
Mhm.
you know, you got to take your stuff back,
Right.
you know, which is fine. So there's a lot. Tuesday morning, she's
She goes.
inundated.
And she's been
Right.
coming in on Fridays too to catch up. So that's 2 days she's spending 8 hours here. Plus she's running our, plus she works in the gift shop to cover when needed. Plus she's running our craft classes. So she's a great volunteer. I don't want to chase her off. But we are looking into the possibility of allowing people, repeat consigners, to drop off their items with a couple of conditions in place. So that should help. That should help the people that can't come in on Tuesdays. So that's the coffee shop and gift shop. Both are doing very well. We're very pleased with both. We just need some volunteers in the coffee shop. All right, where was I? Lunch continues to grow. We're reaching the first anniversary of being reopened for in-person lunch. Our numbers have slowly crept up where we were getting like 20 people a day. Now it's pretty common to get in the 40s. Pre-pandemic, we'd be 50 to 60, so we're not quite there, but we did lose a lot of our regulars, sadly, you know, over the course of the pandemic, and we're kind of rebuilding that base. So that's going very well. Meals on Wheels the growth has been unbelievable. I mean, we're delivering meals to almost 70 people a day on some days. Some are couples or folks who live together, so it's like one delivery, but that's a lot of food that comes in. Each recipient receives a hot meal that they eat right away, that gets delivered hot, and then a package of like milk and fruit and bread and everything. And some people receive a second cold meal to eat for dinner, like a sandwich or a wrap. So that's all done by volunteers. We're up to 4 very full routes every single day that we deliver. So that's good news. It seems like their funding is solid right now. You know, pre-pandemic it was tenuous at times, but now it's okay. So that's going very strong. Let's see. On the energy assistance front, the last day to receive or order oil under the energy assistance program was March 31st. So that program has expired for the year. They expect it to reopen in August. So I'll give the same public service announcement as I did last time. Things happen. You don't know that you're going to find yourself in financial hardship. But if you're looking at your household budget and you think that oil cost may be an issue moving forward, please don't wait to apply. It's quite a process to get through, and the need is immense. So we always ask you, don't be ashamed. We're here to help. Just give us a call and we can direct you to the right program for you. I think that's it. I have upcoming programs later in the agenda, so I'll hold off so I don't get ahead of myself like usual. I think that's it for now.
Okay, the vaccine uptake initiative grant.
Yeah, breaking news on that today. We learned that we have received approval to receive a $50,000 grant from the National Council on Aging for our vaccine uptake initiative, which is fantastic news because that was a lot of work, and I think it's going to be a very valuable program. So just a reminder on how that program works. It's funding provided by the National Council on Aging. Apparently, very few senior centers applied or received funding. It was a lot of health districts and that type. So we're one of the few senior centers. Newington, because I took the lead on the project, Newington is the fiduciary for the project, but it involves the Central Connecticut Health District towns of Berlin, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, and Newington, as well as the Central Connecticut Health District itself on the staff. So again, how it works, I explained this last time, but I'll kind of reiterate it. Folks who want to get a vaccine, it involves flu or COVID vaccines or boosters. Folks who wish to get a vaccine but can't for some reason, we are available to help them. We have funding to help with things like transportation. Like if they can't get to an appointment, they don't have a way to get there, but say they're not eligible for dial-a-ride or they can't get there till after hours, we have funding to help provide them transportation. We have funding to identify and reach out to people who may be at risk, such as people who don't have a permanent address or don't have a home, who aren't able to get somewhere or don't have a medical provider, where they can get somewhere to get a vaccine. We can provide outreach where we could set people up with information, medical information, because we're not medical professionals here, but if they have questions about, is a vaccine right for me? Is it safe? Is it whatever? We could help set them up with that. So that's mostly what we're going to do on our end, is we'd be able to help with transportation, help set up, help if somebody, say there's one pharmacy where you have to make an appointment online. I forget which one it is, but whatever it is, if you don't have access to the internet, we could help, we can help you with that now. So we can help, we can get some volunteers. We could also bring in seasonal staff to help with that if that's allowable under the funding. So it's the 4 towns, not just Newington. But
Is there, I keep interrupting.
That's
you.
okay, no.
Is
interrupt
there a
away.
committee or something where you're gonna get together and figure
Yes,
out?
like I said, I love the committee, but it's the directors of Berlin, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, myself, and then the clinical staff and the management of the health district. The biggest part of the funding, so these are all like the components, but these aren't big cost items. These are more time items. So we could bring in people to help us. The biggest cost item is going to be the clinical side of it, which is purely the health district, which would be setting up vaccines for folks who wish to get them but are homebound. You would think that vaccines are very readily available. You can go into any pharmacy right now and get a COVID shot or a flu shot. But homebound people have very few choices. There are very few providers that will go into somebody's house and vaccinate them. So this will allow the health district clinical folks who have the expertise to be able to set up a program to hire medical professionals to go and help vaccinate people that are homebound. We were able to do a handful of them during our various vaccine clinics over the past 2 years. But for the most part, a lot of people do go unvaccinated who have to stay home. And you say, well, who cares? They're homebound, but they have a lot of people coming in and out of their house. They have medical professionals, families, so they're getting just as exposed to these viruses as anybody else may be. And oftentimes they're more vulnerable. So we don't want them to get sick. This is the first time we've really been able to have a focus on people who might not have a home, people who have other challenges, serious issues that don't allow them to get vaccinated. And again, you sit there, probably sit there saying anybody can get a vaccine anywhere. It's not that big of a deal now, but there are a lot of challenges that people face that you aren't necessarily aware of unless you hear about it every day. So the major portion of the funding will go towards that clinical side of getting homebound folks vaccinated. They could probably hold extra clinics now with this money because they can afford to hire the medical people who run them. They may be able to do like a drive-through clinic or an extra clinic at each one of the senior centers. So this is excellent news. It's a lot of work. So literally signed the paperwork 3 hours ago. And I have to attend an informational session next Wednesday night. A lot of requirements with this grant, a lot of reporting, a lot of responsibility. It has to have an actual measurable result with it. So we have to say we helped 80 people get vaccines through homebound shots, and we took 300 phone calls about transportation, so we have to report that. So it's a lot of work. I do feel very confident that we are going to be capable of doing this work. We're going to hopefully get some volunteers. Like I said, we have a small amount of funding in this grant available to hire some temporary staff if we had to, just to help answer phones and everything. And then the rest of it's up to the health district to figure out how to get the shots in people's arms who wish to get them.
Just a brief question.
Yeah.
So is the 50,000 to be divvied among the 4 districts, or is 50,000 for Newington alone?
We're the fiduciary, so we get the money,
Uh-huh.
but the group, the 4 towns and the health district, we have a project plan that we have to submit that figures out how to spend the money. So we'll figure out, okay, so we need $20,000 to do the clinics. We need $10,000 to do a mailing. I don't know what the numbers are, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that all has to be reported accordingly. So it's Newington's money, but we share it with all the towns.
And being the fiduciary, that's akin to power of attorney.
I
or
believe
power
so.
of town, if you will.
Yeah. It will all be done accordingly through our finance department because they're the experts and I am not.
Yes,
So
yes.
everything, all the appropriate expenditures and everything else will go through them.
There'll be like a treasurer
Yeah.
appointed.
Yeah.
And what's the commission's the committee's role going to be in the appointment of officers?
Well, there's not going to be an officer appointed. It's the staff, but but the finance staff, the director of finance for Newington is in charge of the money. And so there will be a significant reporting, which will be shared with this commission, even though it won't all be expended by Newington, but we'll figure out how that works. So like if Weathersfield has a $5,000 expense related to it, but it's part of our project plan, everything has to be planned, everything has to be budgeted, everything has to be reported. So you'll know where every penny goes. I hope that answered that right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's just, I know you're saying it's vaccine, but is any component of the money being able to be used to provide, let's say, homebound people with the test kits?
Unfortunately, test kits were not included in this funding, but we do have other funding options through the state and through the health district where we could certainly include that. So let's say we do have people who sign up to get the shots in their homes. We can include it. We could include test kits. We could send test kits along with the clinical staff because we have access to them. So we could certainly do that. It's actually a really good idea. As part of our outreach, say we have test kits as well. They're not part of this funding, but we do have them available. We can get them for you pretty easily. So
Can some of that money go to hiring someone who can take charge of the program?
I don't think we'd want to do that because it'd be too expensive. I think it would take up too much of a chunk. Don't forget, we have the health district expert staff. We have, clinical clinicians. We have public health experts. The senior center directors aren't the experts at the actual giving shots part, but we are the experts at outreach and at identifying people who are at risk. So that's where we come in. That's not the money part. That's the time part. So
It seems like there's a lot of coordination.
there is,
It's a lot of
but
work
we're used
for
to
you
that.
guys.
We're used to it. We can do it. We're good.
Okay.
It's important enough that I think we'll be able to handle it appropriately. Sorry.
I'm on the health district and they're organized. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also we have the 13 volunteers to assist.
Yes, which is great. And we'll definitely.
I was just wondering how homeless, if somebody's homeless and I could use a shot or whatever, are they going to be able to avail themselves of other issues? Or
I
other
think-
help?
Again, this funding is very
Was I
narrow.
thinking
It's
about it?
shots only. But if we do
Okay.
find somebody who is homeless and needs assistance, then that's when we refer them to human services and the proper people to help them get. And we're
They're all
probably,
over
yeah.
the Berlin
Oh,
front.
I know. That's actually one of our focuses is the motels. And a lot of times human services are aware of those folks, but they have various degrees of wanting help or accepting help or being
Yeah.
willing to,
USA
yeah.
Motel.
the motels were actually part of the application. Like this is part of our
Oh,
focus.
good.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Well, I would imagine human services would be a good resource for people that are coming into the food bank or
Yep.
things like that. So they would be very well aware of people.
right. And because this is the National Council on Aging funding, the focus is on older adults, but we are certainly not going to turn away anybody, who would, if somebody calls and said, I heard, you have funding and I need a ride to the doctor to get a shot, but my car's broken down. We're going to help them. We're not going to turn anybody away.
That just begs kind of the question, at least in my thought is, should it be called the senior center, disabled center, poverty center, for lack of a better way of saying it? Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
so that, within the proviso of poverty, that larger umbrella is, everyone's covered that doesn't meet the, the 235% or whatever the metric is for the national, if you make a household of one can only make $31,000 or less to be considered under the federal poverty line. So that just per my understanding. But also, just a quick question. How do we know, is from Dr. Charlie Brown, for example, or Sharon Dunning here with Sharon Dunning is a name that comes to mind. I think she's like an epidemiologist or MPH. How are we 70-30 with herd immunity in Newington?
I don't
In
know.
terms, does somebody have that metric?
I don't know that metric currently exists because they have stopped tracking a lot of these things, but I can find out for you.
Thank you so much. Just,
We'll ask our.
I'm a nerd, so.
No, I love the numbers. I hear you. Okay. And
They
for
don't lie.
a long time, I was checking them every day. I was checking the percentages, trying to predict if we'd be open the following week or not and everything else. But that reporting has decreased significantly since basically the public health emergency is no longer
We're not.
forefront. But I can find out. That'd be interesting to know. Okay, so I think that's about it. Again, very new info. It seems like every time we meet, I have brand new info for you, but I don't have all the details I need yet. So after next Wednesday night, when I have to attend that onboarding session, then I should have more info. I could certainly send an email to you folks with more details about how everything's accounted for. And I'm awaiting a meeting with the finance director as well, because obviously she's a big part of that.
It's just very exciting.
It
It's hard
is.
to get grants.
And-
And it's a lot of work to write them because I know
It is.
I've had to do that.
It's a lot
too.
of work. It was a competitive grant, so I'm happy that we were able to receive it. And I think it'll be extremely beneficial moving forward. So we're excited. More info to follow. That's all I have on that.
The ARPA funding for
Um,
senior centers?
Yeah, I don't have anything else on that. I was hoping to have info tonight. I think I've said the last couple meetings that we've indicated we've been told we're going to receive $90,000 in ARPA funding, separate from all the other ARPA funding out there. This is specific for senior centers in Connecticut. And all 202 municipal and nonprofit centers are receiving some of this funding. Our portion of it is $90,000. We don't really have any say or negotiation power on how much we get. And I'm still waiting. All the senior centers in the state are impatiently now waiting info on when to expect that funding. What you can use it for is essentially the same as all the other ARPA funding. We're waiting more specific details on that, but essentially it's going to be building improvements, programming, and getting people like recouping losses from the pandemic. So that's where we're looking at. Now, a lot of things are flying around among seniors, there's a big email list among most of the directors in the state of ideas. And again, just throwing it out there very informally, we're looking at improvements to the garden. We're looking at some improvements or some ways that we're using space in the building, things that are underutilized. We're looking at how we can continue to spread the word to folks that we exist, even though like Diane Stone used to love to say, we can't accommodate all 11,000 older adults in Newington. We can certainly let them know we exist, So those are the types of very general, vague things we're looking at while we await more info. Because I don't want to get too far into planning any kind of expenditure just to find out it's not allowed under the grant. So that's where we are. Maybe next month I'll have a better report for you.
Okay, that's also exciting.
Mm.
Gives you guys some exciting programs.
Yeah, no, we're
work
trying to
on.
be creative and we just want to make sure that it's okay. We don't want to have any issues. I think that's it.
Now we're into old business, and we did receive a budget update from Councilman Dave, but do you have nothing else?
I don't have, I think
Sounds like it's,
Counselor Nagel explained everything I was going to say. We don't expect any changes. We appreciate the support.
and then I just had a couple things that I was wondering, was the door counters.
Okay, so do you want to do that under building update or do you want me to do upcoming activities first? I can do this.
It doesn't matter.
All right, well, door counters, I'll do upcoming last because it's fun. Door counters, for those of you who have been around for a couple of years now, know that they were always kind of a bane of Diane's existence in terms of them working properly. So they weren't working properly back in 2019. Nothing happened during the pandemic because people weren't coming in the building. So we did get them up and running again, but they're not working properly. So we put in a work order to IT like a month ago. Not going to be their highest priority, but they did come and look. They had taken a specific kind of battery, so we replaced all the batteries. Didn't work. They're still not working right. So IT is working with the company that manufactures them to see what the issue is. Maybe they could be replaced. I doubt they're under warranty because they're several years old, but they could, so they are working on it. We're hoping to get it off and running as soon as possible. Hi.
Hi, what meeting is this?
This is the Commission on Aging and Disability.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's the door counter update. We had an IT guy, Scott from IT was over here earlier this week, fiddling with them and, doing research. So hopefully we'll get them running soon. If not, we may need to look into replacing them.
They've never
That's important data.
really worked
Yeah.
well, and Diane
Mhm.
spent more time trying to figure out the numbers.
Yeah. So
but
maybe.
I'm wondering what other, the library has a door, but they only have the one door.
Right. We have 3 doors, 4 doors really, because people sneak out the end there. And people go in and out a lot throughout the day. So including staff and bus drivers and everybody else. So maybe we look into, if IT can't figure out how to get them to work and get them to work the way we want them to, we look at other options.
Okay.
Couldn't you have a camera that's different faces?
Unfortunately, we don't.
Or is that illegal?
I couldn't speak to that. I don't know.
Pictures of people.
I'm not sure how that works. We do not currently have any cameras in this building. If we were to replace the door counters, then we'd look at all options, but I'm not sure how that would work privacy or leak. No idea, but we'd certainly find out.
And then the other question I had was about the stage,
Yep.
the room behind the stage, the demolition of it, and
Yes, that did not make it into the CIP budget because we didn't have the proper info we needed from the former facilities director, but that's not bad news, because the new facilities director is looking to obtain some funding for us to demolish that stage. He actually just emailed me earlier today to say that he's got some things in the works and he'll get back to me this week. So that's great. What we're looking to do, if you're not familiar, is the stage cannot be used for performances. It doesn't meet current fire codes, and to make it meet current fire codes wouldn't be worth it because it's a small auditorium. So we're not going to have hundreds of people in there watching performances anyway. So we're looking at removing the stage, which is currently being used as storage, which we don't really need to use as storage, and making it into a usable program space. The initial thoughts were like a music room where we could have instrument lessons or singing or choir or, that type of thing. But really the space can be as flexible as we want it to be. So that's moving forward. I should have more info for you this week.
great. Okay, now we're into new business, upcoming activities.
Yes,
You're on again.
I am. Our April connection is out. Before I get into our programs, we have a couple of events going on that are, I had one more building update. Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry, the last building update, 2 building updates actually. The lights in the auditorium have been replaced with LED lights because they're better, they're brighter, and they are more efficient. Right now, if you're going to go in there, it is so bright, it almost hurts your eyes. It's too much. There are actual lenses and covers that go over the new lights that the shipping got delayed on them. So the covers are coming. Once the covers are up, it'll soften the light a little bit. It's a little bit harsh right now, but in general, the lighting there is so much better now, so much easier to see, it safer. So that's a good thing. And not as great of a thing is our window replacement project, which has been going on for many years now. We received we were allocated about $300,000 in state funding to replace the windows in this building, some of which are original. So then it kind of went by the wayside during the pandemic, and some of the staffing at town hall switched over, and it didn't really go anywhere. It fired back up with the new folks over at town hall. They had a bunch of pre-bid meetings. They took a bunch of bids. They opened the bids, and they were double our budget. So a couple things to look at there. Could include phasing. It could include phasing the project. It could look at other options such as replacing with the windows needed the most. So that's not great news, but we'll continue to kind of plug away and see what our options are on that.
Could some of the $90,000 be used for that?
It could. I prefer
If-
it doesn't, but I would prefer to use that for programming but that's not my decision, of course. It's up to the town council and up to the powers that be there. But they are looking into it. I'm not incredibly worried about it. It's already been ongoing for several years. We don't have any issues like broken windows or anything that's an immediate safety hazard. It's just more for efficiency and aesthetics and everything else. So that's the end of the building update. I'm sorry, I jumped around there.
That's right.
Coming up for upcoming activities, we have 2. We're hosting the Friends of the Library book sale again, not this weekend, but next weekend. So that's always an exciting time for us. We enjoy doing that. Also during that time, actually not during that, but 2 weeks after that, the last weekend of April, the 26th, 27th, and 28th, we are bringing back the townwide student art show, which used to be on the 3rd floor of town hall. And then obviously with the new town hall, that 3rd floor went away and the pandemic happened, so those went virtual. It's going to be back in person. We're going to host it for those 3 days, open 8:30 to 8:30 on Wednesday and Thursday, and 8:30 to 4:30 on Friday. We decided to make it, and it's going to be in the auditorium and down on that wing. So all the students' artwork is going to be displayed. There'll be a reception for the parents, and all the things that they used to do in the old art show are back. So that's great news. We're going to hold a plant sale that day. That'll be our first plant sale of the year. We also expect to do one probably during the library 5K, because of course, as the spring progresses, there's more things that grow and more things that we can sell. Going back to the art show for a moment, we did make it intergenerational, as that's going to be, as you'll see some of the focus of some of our programs. So the Newington Art League will also be participating in that art show. They used to have an art show in the lobby of the old town hall back in the day. And that also went away with the new town hall. So we will have art from pretty much every age in Newington, and kindergarten and up. So we have the kindergarten, the kids, the school kids, kindergarten through 12th grade, and then the adults, which range in age from the Art League to, from younger to older adults. So it's going to be an all ages art show those days, and we look forward to hosting that and having it here. We're excited about that. And we're excited about our partnership with the Newington Schools Art Department. Like I said, they provided some artwork for our cafeteria, which gave it some much needed color. And we'll be looking to do some programs with them in the future. And a little longer term, probably next school year, looking at maybe painting a mural in the TV lounge. That might be a collaborative thing between members here and art students. So it's kind of neat. We're looking into that, and I think that's kind of cool. So those are the bigger things we have coming up. We have a lot of programs. As usual, our program coordinator, Barb Wilmer, crushes it with her program planning. Any kind of, all of our different dimensions of wellness, we hit them. We have one on memory loss coming up on April 13th. We have something about cultivating kindness and your own self-compassion next Wednesday, the 12th. We had yesterday, passed already, but we had a lunch and learn about seniors and bullying yesterday, which was a capacity, because sadly bullying is an issue for all ages, not just kids in school, as people might think. We have a couple of card classes and craft classes, which the same volunteer, Rose, is the same person who runs our gift shop. She's very multi-talented, and her classes are always full. We're starting to get into our spring garden programs. So while our gardeners are doing their work, we're also doing some educational things. I've never heard of this before, but it's a garden seed ball presentation, a way to start seedlings and plants by making little balls out of the seeds. It sounds really neat. I'm gonna have to check it out, but that's a new program that we're offering. Another intergenerational program we have is the Martin Kellogg Middle School Chorus. We'll be doing actually several performances here. The first one's gonna be the 7th and 8th graders, and then we're gonna do one in the spring with the 5th and 6th graders. So we'll have some music in the building, which is something, again, we haven't had in several years. And a reverse mortgage seminar and lunch and learn coming up as well. So lots of great classes. We still offer we're still working on our OWL to get a lot of these speaker programs to be available both online and in person. So if you're not feeling well the day of the program and you don't want to come into the center, no problem. You can just log in online if you have that, or you can watch on YouTube. So we're getting that worked out with IT so that people don't have to miss out if they can't make it in. And we still offer a handful of very popular remote-only programs. Like we have a European history lecture that's been ongoing that is always at capacity. It's online only. We have Barbara does telephone meditation each Monday. We play Boggle over the phone. We play bingo over the phone and in person. So there are options if you don't wish to come into the center or you're not able to. And you don't necessarily have to have Zoom or technology. A lot of them are telephone based. So we are very excited moving to the spring.
Any questions? Consideration of upcoming purchases.
I have one. It's regarding the garden. Again, people who have been on this commission for a while understand that the biggest issue we have in the garden is with critters eating our plants. So our rabbits, and we had a deer back there once, a turkey. I mean, you name it, we've had it. And they eat the blueberries, they eat everything. They eat the tomatoes big time. So we have tried many different solutions. There's no one really good solution, but we got what's called critter fence panels. They're paneled fences. I could pass this around. I don't have it, but they're essentially grid fences. They're about this high, and they're configurable in many different ways. We have a lot of them. We've been using them for a couple of years. The garden volunteers are expanding the raised garden beds. If you're looking at the garden, like actually straight out this window, there's the two long ones, and then there's all the boxes, the smaller boxes that extend out towards the fence. They are expanding what they plant in those, which means that we need to expand how we protect them from the animals. So they are requesting a purchase of more of these fences. They are not cheap, but they're worthwhile because they prevent us from losing our vegetables and fruit that we're growing. So they're asking for 8 boxes of fencing at $154 per box, which is a total of $1,232 for fencing. And they're asking for permission to purchase that.
And I don't know if the new commissioner knows that the food that they grow in the garden goes to the food bank.
Correct. It's all organically grown produce, all grown by volunteer gardeners, and usually 600 to 700 pounds of it benefits the food bank each year. So it's worthwhile to protect against.
Yes.
To protect against getting in. So if you want to, this is not a great picture, but it's a picture of what it is. Again, we utilize it. We know it works. We just need more of it for this year.
Oh.
Careful.
A little slower at getting up. Well, after everyone
Yeah.
sees it,
Would that be sufficient?
Yes, we use it now. We just need more of it because we're expanding our planting. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen other plastic.
Mm.
and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it doesn't work as well because they chew through it. I mean, they'll find a way if they can access it to eat it. But unfortunately, we learned the hard way.
yeah, I was here one day talking, while you're looking at this, talking to Diane. We were standing in this room and all of a sudden she takes off and runs outside. And she-
Of course, please do.
Something out of the garden.
It's mostly like the rabbits and the groundhogs and like those things. But again, we've had pretty much everything. The birds get the blueberries, so we cover that with the netting too. Yeah, it's an ongoing struggle. And as nice it was to see deer out there, like, oh, how pretty. They're eating our plants.
Yeah.
So we need to go out for doing that.
So after you look at it, I don't know if you want to have a discussion. How do people feel about it? I do too, yeah.
So it's 8 boxes of fencing. The total cost, including shipping, is $1,232.
That's, so someone want to make a
Yeah, I'll
motion?
make a motion to purchase the fencing for the garden.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Any more discussion? All
I'm just
in,
curious, how many acres of land this senior center the senior disabled center sits on?
You asked the good questions that I don't have the answers to. I'll find out.
And that parcel of land that we sit on, how much is the garden? I'm just curious,
well, the garden, if
square
you
footage or
get
whatever
up and
yards.
look out the window, you can see it.
Okay. I'm gonna take a look right now because in this.
We'll get
Anytime you'd like to stop
I
by.
may.
No, of course, anytime you'd like to stop by during the day when it's active. Right now, they're planting. I can show you. I'll give you a tour. Anybody, I'll give you a tour. It's very impressive. It doesn't look like too much right now because it hasn't started growing yet. They're just in the process of starting seeds, but it is absolutely beautiful too when it's in full, it's in full force.
Oh, yeah, in the summer,
yeah.
people will take their lunch out and they'll eat in the garden. It's
We have
it's really
picnic tables. We have a
nice.
pavilion, a little small pavilion. We did outdoor programs there for a bit and during the transition time of the pandemic when we couldn't have people inside, but people wanted to come do things, that type of thing. So it is a tremendous asset to our center and to our town. I will tell you, one of the other things that goes around among the senior center staff around the state is how are people keeping their gardens running? We're not the only center that had community. Some have community gardens where you grow your own. Some have these kind of volunteer run gardens. And a lot of the volunteer run gardens have shut down in many other towns because they don't have the funding or the resources or mostly the volunteers to maintain them. So we're very lucky that we're able to maintain our garden and it grows so well and it flourishes. We have 2 master gardeners, one who volunteers and kind of runs the program. They're a self-directed group of volunteers. We give them our input, we give them our blessing to spend money, but we let them do it because they're the experts and we are not. So we have one who kind of runs the program with our supervision, and then one we just kind of consult on a time, from time to time when we need something that's kind of specialized, and she comes in, doesn't charge us, and she does what she needs to do. So we're very lucky. We are always looking for volunteers in the garden. You don't have to have a green thumb, even if it's just watering or doing whatever is on the current to-do list. You don't have to, be an expert, but if you are an expert, even better. So
And it's good exercise
It is.
and the garden is raised, right?
it's all
Everything's-
raised beds. Yep.
So it's ADA accessible, and there's a sidewalk, so
Yes.
you can get to all the garden in a wheelchair
Yeah.
if
We added
necessary.
Additional sidewalks about a year and a half ago to allow the entire garden to be
And when's the
accessible.
gardening season start and end?
They're starting seeds now. Actually, if you go over to the arts and crafts room right next door to us, there's grow lights and they start a lot of the seeds indoors. And then they transplant them. But I'm not, again, one bit of a gardening expert. I'm terrible at it, but I know that certain things need to be planted at certain times depending on the climate and the weather.
Right.
Even things like they do potatoes, and you can only buy potato seeds in a very narrow window. And we have to check like every day on the website. Are they shipping them to Connecticut? Are they shipping them to Connecticut? Because as soon as they do, they sell out like the next day. So it's interesting. But they do a great job.
And the potatoes are grown in
Bags.
bags.
Yep.
It's
Mhm.
cool.
It's
And
really
you
cool.
learn a lot,
Mhm.
and it is good exercise.
Yeah.
So if you know of anyone who might be interested. We have the volunteer of the year coming up. It's almost
Yeah,
May.
this is a discussion item right now. And the reason I put it on there is we'll talk about it because of our upcoming meetings and when we meet and when we don't. So again,
Don't you have to take a vote on
yeah,
Oh, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Would you like to come up here?
No, I've had enough of that.
My brain is
Thank you.
going.
um,
So carried.
yay, volunteer of the year. For those folks who've been around for a long time, you know that pre-pandemic, we would honor a volunteer of the year each May. A volunteer of the senior center, the town of Newington does its own volunteer of the year, which I believe was awarded last night at the meeting. But we do our own volunteer, and what we do is we collect nominations through the center for members and staff, and then the staff kind of looks at it and then presents it to the commission, and the commissioners choose the volunteer of the year. That happened just as planned through 2019, and then the pandemic hit in 2020 and 2021, and we hold a volunteer dinner in May, a nice, catered dinner and an awards ceremony. It's a
Chicken
beautiful
dinner.
night, chicken dinner. Obviously in 2020 and 2021, the dinner didn't happen. We did do a grab and go dinner, or we delivered the meals to the volunteers, and Diane did a brief program on NCTV each year. We did not honor a volunteer of the year either of those years because most of our volunteers had to stay home. And we thought, that wouldn't be quite right. And we did have some volunteers in the building. So we just kind of had a general, thank you, everybody. We missed you. We hope you come back kind of deal. In 2022, if you recall, we did not have a quorum for most of 2022 for volunteer of the year to be chosen by the commission. That was one factor. The other factor was through the first and second quarters of 2022, there were still a lot of pandemic restrictions about gathering. So eventually we said, you know what, we really don't want to go a third year without doing this. So in June or July of last year, I went to the town manager and we said, we still don't have a quorum, but we want to have a volunteer dinner. They said, fine, do it. So we had in August, many of you were probably there, I think maybe all of you were here. We went and had the outdoor dinner under the tent, and it was really nice.
It was nice.
And we honored the Meals on Wheels drivers as the volunteer of the year. So my question to the commission is, May is when we've traditionally done it up through 2019, but it's coming right up. We do have the money in the budget, so that's not really an issue. We spent, we get that authorized each year. Would you like to proceed with doing one in the spring? I'd say probably more closer to June, so you have time to collect nominations. Or would you like to stay with that kind of outdoor under the stars summertime event? I have no preference. I think the summer event was lovely, but we also got lucky with the weather.
that?
It's up to you.
Did you have to pay for the tent?
It was a very minor, they charged us a nominal amount for it. I think it was $200 or something. It wasn't a major expense. We ended up using it for an outdoor event the next day too. So, but it wasn't a major. The biggest expense, of course, is the food, the dinner. We get gifts for the volunteers and plaques. I'd say the whole thing probably costs us about $1,500 each year, which is in our
How
budget.
is that compared to indoors?
It was slightly more expensive because of the tent, but not much more at all. We spent a little bit more money on the gifts and everything too, just because we hadn't done it in a couple of years. We wanted to make it nice and attract people to come back. But I would say we'd stick within our regular budget of about $1,500 for the event, either whether it's inside or out. Because indoors, we have to rent a couple things. Outdoors, we can just put these tables on, put tablecloths. How we fit in the auditorium was a little different than how we fit under a tent. So it's about 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
So if the weather is nice, it's not a problem outside. If it's raining, can we switch to?
We can now because the pandemic restrictions have been lifted. So yes, yeah. I mean, we were lucky that we had a gorgeous night, but we could have just as easily had a severe thunderstorm, in August at that time. So I think we had a backup date in planned last time, which we didn't have to use. We can just as easily move it inside now because there are no longer gathering restrictions. So it's more of the timing. Would you like to continue to do it in the spring as it's traditionally been done, or do you want to make it, or do you want to keep it where it has been?
I think that might be nice to push it a little bit, only because we're now in April.
Yes, it's coming right up.
And I know that Human Services is having theirs.
Here.
April 7th.
Yes.
April 17th, I think it is, as I got a notice.
Mhm.
So it's just in order to get the word out for people to nominate people, you know,
Yes.
and things like that, I think you would want to give a little bit of time, but.
We-
my opinion.
So this commission, as some of you may not know, or if you're newer, it does not meet typically over the summer. So June, July, August, we usually don't meet. Doesn't mean we can't meet. I think last year we may have met in June because we actually had a quorum and we were so excited about that we had a meeting. So my point is, if no matter what we want to do it, I think at the next meeting, we'd want to make that decision, whether we appoint the volunteer of the year and say, okay, this is who we want, or we say, you know, we'll do it a little later on. So it's up to you. I won't put anything.
My opinion is I really liked it outside. It was very nice. And I loved having your daughter, the waitress.
Great.
Yeah.
She was terrific.
Something.
And probably should push it because May in the last few years, and I know because it's my birthday's in May, so I always am more aware of the weather, and May has been in the past very rainy. So I would push it into June.
And the
But-
fiscal year ends on
July 1st, correct. We can,
Right, so you want to put it in the same year as you're having a volunteer of the year?
we can. We also are able to ask finance to, the word right now. We could ask finance, we could encumber the funding and say we're going to have a volunteer of the year dinner, but because of scheduling purposes or whatever, we can't have it until after July 1st. We can encumber the funding and then spend it after, you know, a certain amount of time after that. If this commission feels important to have it this fiscal year, I'd recommend we do it in June. So we have a little more time to gather nominations. We could start gathering nominations tomorrow. I mean, you know, but we want to have time to really get the word out properly.
Yeah, well, that was my opinion. I don't know about you
Yeah.
guys.
June is better.
June is good.
Yeah,
Okay.
people go away, maybe, I don't know.
If we do it before the end of the school year, we're less likely to have people on vacation. But if this commission is okay with June, I'll look at the calendar and throw some dates out there and see when everybody's available. And then we could start with the volunteer of the year nominations. We could either take action at the next meeting if we think we have enough nominations or candidates, or we could take action via like email or informally, you know, after that if we don't. Or we can meet in June if you want to. I'm open either way. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Good. I'm excited to do it.
Everyone
Yeah.
liked the idea of the tent too, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was nice.
It really was nice.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the input. We'll proceed with that.
Okay, and the last thing is the next meeting date and the agenda. I don't have a calendar.
Let me look here. So the first Saturday of May is, first Wednesday of May is May 3rd.
Okay.
May 3rd, Wednesday, May 3rd at 6 p.m. would be the next regular meeting if we follow our typical schedule.
May 3rd, so is everybody available? May 3rd,
Yeah, as far as I know.
first Wednesday of May.
I hope so.
So,
I really don't know what I'm saying. I really don't.
Commissioner Starr, can you still hear us? Because it's awfully quiet over there. Oh, you're on mute. Are you available on May 3rd for a meeting? You are muted, just so you know, we can't hear you. I'm sorry, you're still muted. I see you're talking, but we can't hear you.
You can just shake your head yes or no.
Yes, shake your head, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
okay. And I will follow up with an email to the group, so you can feel free to reply to the email with any issues you may have or anything as well. Okay, oh, there we are, unmuted. I can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And just so the commissioners know, we do have Counselor Rada on the call as well now, because I know it doesn't mirror on this screen, but I can see you.
Welcome.
Hello. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you too. Okay,
All right, we
All right.
have, next is public participation. Is there anyone on the line?
Counselor Rada is on the line, nobody else.
Do you have anything to add, Counselor Rada?
Only that next Monday, this coming Monday, this is a shameless plug in a way, but I will be participating in a forum with U.S. Representative John Larson and State Rep Gary Turco focused on issues concerning seniors. So it will be from a national, a state, and a local perspective. And I know Jamie and I have been in conversation by email because there are a couple of ordinances that the council has recently passed, which I think will positively impact, or we hope will positively impact seniors in our community. And also, definitely interested in, hearing, and being able to highlight not only some of the great things that the Senior and Disabled Center does, but also any concerns or issues that we can raise. And it'd be great to see as many folks as possible come out. I think it's 10 o'clock.
Here at the Senior and Disabled Center.
Yeah.
We're hosting the event. It's not our event to plan, but we're happy to have everybody here.
No, and we appreciate you hosting it.
Well, thank you. Let's see, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, can we vote? I don't want to forget to vote.
Or we can't.
All in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.